Okay, welcome back. Our guest is Senator Omowora joining us remotely from Abuja. And we're looking at the budget at Mr. President, a preliminary look at the budget that Mr. President laid before the National Assembly yesterday. Already we've got calls, speaking about the percentages. Defense and security, as you know, is right up there, 12% of the budget at 3.25 trillion naira. And a caller, Ada, has already complained that education is just 1.33 trillion, accounting for about 5% of the budget. But we do have another guest who is on the line in Abuja. Good morning to you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Abubakar, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. I can hear you clearly.
Okay, please go ahead now.
Yeah, I remember Mustafa Wakala Tinubu came from PWK here in Abuja. On Kuyori, I'm very, very happy for this budget of renewed hope. The reason is that from the day this budget is signed into law, that is when we begin to assess the presidency of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. The budget Asiwaju is using at the moment is not this budget. These are not its input. What I want a lot of Nigerians to understand is this. You say UNESCO budget for education is 24.5%. Okay, what if the government decides to put 25% and decide the budget performance now end at 2%? You understand? It's not about what percentage is put, but what is the implementation? What is the performance? That is what we should all be yearning for. So let's see how this budget performs. Let's put pressure on the government. You on the media, we on the social media, the senators, the House of Reps doing their own oversight. That is what is needed. Is the budget performance, the budget implementation. That is what we should be worried about, not percentage that is put there. I can put 50%, I release 2%, and we'll have 2% performance. What have I achieved? But if I put, let's say, that 7% for education, and I achieve 7%, that is unprecedented in the history of budget in this country. And that is what we are looking at. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Succeed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Abubakar, for calling in. Along similar lines, Senator, because all these recommendations, United Nations recommendations, the guidelines, they're recommendations, they are guidelines. But as that gentleman was pointing out, the actual performance of the budget is key. And I think you were also indicating that earlier.
That matters. If the budget performance is way below average, then even if you have 20% in the budget, then at the end of the day, maybe the implementation may be 9%. So it's the implementation that matters, and you and I must ensure that the budget is implemented. Then she mentioned, I'm still referring, and I agree with what Abubakar said, but others said separation of powers, that this thing will be passed and nothing will happen at the end of the day. I don't think so. The president, if you read the speech very well, and I think it's paragraph 38 of the speech, he alluded in a very subtle manner, recognizing the fact that whilst he is initiating the budget under Section 81 of the Constitution, the power to pass the budget lies in the National Assembly. And in a subtle manner, he said, yes, you can do it, but let it be in tandem with the program, the project, what the executive is doing, and don't put things that will not be equitable to Nigerians, to the citizenry. And he also said, look, in doing it, ensure that it is done in a manner that the MDA responsible for the program, for that particular project, is the NDA under which you have put the project. So the National Assembly can still change things. The National Assembly can still increase education or health, if that is what is priority of Nigerians. Yes, and it is good priority. But at the end of the day, we have challenges. We have food security challenges in Nigeria. The NSB has said that, look, which is the Bureau of National Statistics Bureau, we spend so much money on food in Nigeria at the moment. We must bring food security down, and there is a correlation also with security. You can't go to the farm if there is no security there.
Sure, exactly. Good morning, Mr. Yakub from Dokwemo. Thank you for holding on. You can go right ahead now.
Yeah, thank you, Chief. And then good morning to your guest, Mr. Omowora.
Senator Omowora.
Senator
Good morning.
Omowora, yes. Chief, once again, I'm happy that I give my vote to Ashwat Bola Tinubu. Listening to him yesterday, in fact, I was like, wow, this is old man that they were taught that it cannot deliver, and then the journey started begin. But I think I have to say this. One of Ashwat Bola Tinubu campaign then was like he's going to give in student loan. And then I could remember as at that time, the NASS, the student union come to Aso Rock then, and then make sure that they let Ashwat Bola Tinubu, the president now, that if you are giving this student loan, make sure that the institution, we are not increase the tuitions. Please, because if you give the student loan, they had it in mind that all the institutions, they may likely increase their tuitions. And then he give them his word then that it will never happen. So what are we saying today? And then the student loan, the pay like that is there. This student is going to access to this loan. They will parameter that even though you want to access to that loan, there are some certain kind of people that needed to sign the paper before you can even access it. That's number one. And then why? From the information some of us had in our hand, in fact, some of our children are prepared to enter institutions now. Some of the institutions in this country, federal institutions, some of them from 70,000 to 170,000 naira. It is too much. Now the subsidy has been removed, and then we had it in mind that Nigerian government had a lot of money now. Instead of them to compensate us through the education and some other, especially education, and now almost all the universities in this country have already increased their tuition. Now my question goes to Senator Orare. What do you think the Nigerian government can do to bring down this price? Because it is very, very difficult for ordinary citizens in this country to send their children to higher institution now because the price was so much, from 100,000 to 200,000. So it is.
Let's give the senator a chance to weigh in. He did say yesterday that the students' loan will be commencing from January 2024. But you also brought up some other matters, Senator.
I think you've answered him in parts. The president said it will start. First of all, let's give the president kudos for making a promise during the campaign, and when he became the president, he started implementing it. The bill was processed and the bill was passed, and he assented to the bill, and it has now been budgeted for. And the president said yesterday that by January 2024, the implementation will start. That is one. Secondly, and I'm sure the education minister is listening to us, he was a VC of a university before. He was DG Law School. He's been everywhere. And I think I agree, he should do something about the increment in fees. It's of no use when you have universities that generate revenue internally and the federal government still assists them. They must sit down with federal government before they increase any fee. They must agree that we are increasing fees maybe by 1%, by 5% across board and so on and so forth. But it must not be irrational. It must not be excessive. It must be affordable, because it will make nonsense of the whole idea of federal government assisting indigent students to pay school fees. That is my view.
Yes. And it links up with everything.
Do the needful.
And it links up with everything. I think it was Ada who was speaking about food, the near impossibility with food prices. And you had spoken earlier about the strategic role of security if people are going to have to be able to go to the farm. So
and even food security.
And even food
education
security
is important. I agree.
There's food inflation.
I agree that education is important. Yeah, I agree. But these are parameters that had been looked into and that they will look into. My own takeaway yesterday from the speech of Mr. President is that he wants macroeconomic stability. Interest rate, inflation rate, bring down unemployment, food security, and all these issues that will, at the end of the day, make the macroeconomy of Nigeria very stable. And I think it's achievable. It will not be done in 1 year. It is not possible. If anybody tells you it will be done in 1 year. But what matters most is implementation and performance of the budget, which must be monitored and evaluated. If it's not done, so if we are doing something that is not right, there's nothing wrong in saying, look, I'm sorry, I thought this will work. It's obviously not working, probably because of the human factor. Let's recalibrate. Let's have a second look at it. Let's move on and do something else if that is necessary.
Let me bring on Fidel. Fidel has called in from Owerri. Good morning, Fidel.
Thank you very much. You see, I'm very happy with the budget that has been presented. What it requires now is for the National Assembly to show a high level of transparency and honesty in handling the issue of the budget. If there are areas that the Nigerian public feel should be given more attention, they should be at liberty to do that. But in doing this, they should avoid anything that will lead to the type of budget padding we witnessed some years ago. And let me say that more attention should be given to areas like agriculture. And anything that will be done to cushion the effect of removal of fuel subsidy should be done now. And that is why more attention should also be given to the oil sector. As we do this, I think Nigerians will be better for it. Thank you. I am Fidel Onyeneke.
Thank you very much for calling in. Senator, you were talking about some aspects of due process. I think people are also going to be concerned with the fact that the president was talking about ensuring that the principles of accountability, are closely adhered to. You know how corruption is and how so much can slip in between cracks if allowance is made. But that the president said that before anybody began to think of those kind of lines, that they're going to be sure to make sure that everything is tight and as should be.
I agree with Mr. President, and I want to, with every sense of sincerity, the National Assembly has the wherewithal. The people in charge of the budget, both the elected representatives of the people and the bureaucracy, can deliver between now. Ordinarily, it's because it's a new government, and this is the first budget. That is why the president is delivering the budget towards the end of November. Ordinarily, this shall be done towards the end of October to give the National Assembly more time to work on the budget. The heads of MDAs, ministries, departments, and agencies will come and defend the budget. There's every likelihood that there will be public hearing. There are other materials that the National Assembly will consider in determining. I can assure you that there is separation of powers in the National Assembly in Nigeria. And they will definitely, like I said earlier on, the president even acknowledged the fact that the National Assembly can tinker with it. But he had, in a subtle manner, set the parameters within which they can touch the budget. It will not be anything substantial. But if they feel the executive has not done this properly, they can do it. They have the independence to do it. And I think they should. If they think that is the situation. Agri social investment mentioned by the last caller will be looked at. I can assure you that the president knows and the executive knows, National Assembly knows that food security matters in Nigeria. If you put food on anybody's table, you've done half of the job for the person.
Okay, let me bring in Mr. Joshua in Irewolede. Good morning, Mr. Joshua. Thank you for calling in.
Okay, good morning. Good morning to your guest, the Senator. Budget, of course, is ceremonial. Anybody knows that. The performance, as it were, is what will determine whether we'll move forward or not. I want to use this platform to reach out to your guest and to his colleagues. My point about the platform you have given to us to talk is to say some things back to people in government, because once they are there, sometimes they don't feel the pulse of the public again. So when we have this window, we can remind them some things. Please let the senator be aware, both him, who is serving now, and those of them who have been in government before,
Actually, he's
Nigeria
not in
has
this
no-
Senate. He's not in this Senate. But, you know, once the senator
I'm not
always
in the
is.
Senate. I was in the 7th
That's
and 8th
what I'm saying,
Senate.
that those who are there now.
He was in the
and those who
7th
have
and
been there
8th
before,
Senate.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, they should know that Nigeria has no business being a failure, being poor. Nigeria has no business being categorized as the poorest nation in the world. Everybody should understand it. That's why sometimes it pains me when people who have been in government before, who also have done something, they come back to the public, whether to criticize or to start offering advice. You can't offer us advice if you have been in government before. Like a former president coming to criticize an existing government. No way. It's a no-no, right? Because he has been in government before. If he has done well, he will be in opposition, whether in a party that is in opposition, and will be able to point out through his political party what the present government is doing wrong.
But as you know, Mr. Joshua, it's very, very unusual for a former president to be criticizing, you know, a sitting administration. Very, very unusual. You don't often hear of it.
Yeah, I mean, of course it happens sometimes. It happens. Some of them are matured enough to keep silent about it, but some do it. But the point is, please, everybody in government in Nigeria should know that Nigeria has no business being a failure. That's just my message to them this morning.
Indeed.
We have no business being a failure.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Joshua, for calling in from Irewolide. Senator?
My response to Mr. Joshua, I think he raised two issues. The first one is we have no business being poor, and that budget is ceremonial. It is the performance that matters. That's what we've been saying. I agree with him. And he said this is an opportunity to feel the pulse of the people. And I also agree with him, and I think he's noted. And I know that those who are sitting at the moment in the National Assembly, they're also noting this. Secondly, he said a former president cannot criticize that. Former president has no business criticizing a former president if he has been there before.
A successor administration.
In fact, the convention is that you don't do it. Some few people do it.
But President Obasanjo does it, unfortunately.
I agree with you. That was why I said that some people do it.
President Obasanjo is not shy to do so.
You've hit the nail on the head. It's seldomly done. It's not usually done. I served as an opposition senator, and I know that, for instance, I cannot recollect anybody that called for division before I did. Probably one person did. Probably. We did opposition, and we did opposition well. I was even looking at my brief a few days ago, and I saw that I opposed the citing, the inclusion of African First Ladies Center or something at a sitting. I opposed it vehemently. So probably Mr. Joshua does not know who I am. I think I tried my best when I was there. But usually I cannot criticize the senators and the House of Rep members that are there at the moment. I will advise them. And I think I do that. I've had opportunity in the past few months to attend some programs, and I know what my contributions are. You will not hear Senator David Mack or Senator Pius Anyim or Senator Namani just criticize where he has served.
Okay,
before.
then.
But I can assure you that they are not keeping quiet wherever they are. They are advising the system. If they don't like something going on, they make their opinion known. But they will not do it by making it public. Just like presidents should not do it.
They don't.
President Obasanjo
usually
does,
don't.
but I think it's wrong.
Exactly.
That's my perspective. I think it's wrong. That's like that everywhere in the world. That's like that in the US. You don't criticize, which is
you won't hear
challenge
it.
you have even in US.
Let me quickly bring on Chidi.
You do it privately.
Chidi is calling in sorry, sir. Chidi is calling in from Kafanchan. Good morning in Kafanchan.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for calling in.
Senator there. Yes.
Good morning.
Judging from the background of President Tinubu, I simply want to believe that the budget presentation that he has done yesterday will soon be cleared by the National Assembly. But that is normally ceremonial, as Joshua has rightly said. The most important area Nigerians should look into, and other stakeholders must work assiduously to ensure, is the budget implementation, one, and the policy implementation, two. Let there be adequate templates for businesses to grow in Nigeria. Let there be the adequate template for security to thrive, both on the side of food security and every other aspect of security. I want to strongly believe that they are all embodied in this budget, which is being expected to be signed into law any moment from January, God's willing.
Indeed.
Thank you very much, and God bless Nigeria.
Thank you very much for calling in, Mr. Chidi from Kafancha. And indeed, the Appropriation Act, is going to take effect from the 1st of January, is it? Yeah, 1st of January.
We definitely sign it. It will definitely assent to the bill before 1st of January under Section 318 of the Constitution and Section 1 of Financial Year Act, Act number 2 of 1980. The financial year is 1st of January to 31st of December. Unfortunately, a few years ago, budgets could take 3, 4, 5 months. So we had implementation challenges. But now, if the National Assembly passes the budget on time, I don't think executive will have any excuse for not implementing it well. The president, let me just say 2 things. Number one, the president has put in place a policy tracking office. And I think is Adiza that is chairing the special advisor on policy tracking. My expectation is that from 1st of January, everything that has been budgeted for, and I'm choosing my words most advisedly, my expectation, but I know the president has the capacity and people around him to say to implementation, efficacious implementation of this. We must track the budget, and the president has an office to track the budget, to look at the key
we just have a couple more minutes
of every ministry.
We just have sorry, Senator, we just have a couple more minutes. That's why I want to bring on.
Let me just say the second. Okay.
Okay, sorry. Mazi Okorafor has called in from Arochukwu. Mazi, we don't have more than a couple of minutes, and the senator still has one other point to make. Please go ahead, sir.
Okay, Mazi Okorafor. Yes, I'm just calling on the senator that let the bill be passed as quick. And what we have to know is that today, our problem, the budget is well arranged, well dedicated. But the question I want the senator to look into that. The implementation have to be very, very careful. That implementation have to cover what the president had in mind.
Okay.
The ministries, the NGAs, they have to work in that. They need to have a committee that will monitor all these ministries we have in Nigeria. That will make the budget have a human face, because a budget that doesn't have a human face is a budget that didn't get to the downtrodden.
Okay, we're going to have to leave you there, Mazi. I really beg your pardon. You know it's not like this always. Senator, as I said, we're down to the wire, but you still had one other point to make. Would you like to quickly make it?
Well, the point I want to make is that the ball, after passing the bill and after the president's assent, and when implementation starts, and when the policy office of the president now has the opportunity of having a global look at the budget and ensuring implementation, the key performance indices, the KPIs of each ministry, the ball will now go back to the court of the National Assembly to oversight.
Okay.
Oversight is a weapon under Section 88 and 89 that must be carefully used. And if carefully used, they can ensure that there is implementation.
All right, then. We're going to have to leave. That's a fine place to leave it, Senator. I'm so sorry. Today, it seems there's so much to say, and we thank you for being available for us. But we've just about run out of time. So I'd like to thank you once more, Senator Babajide Omoworarai, former SSA to the President, to President Buhari, on National Assembly matters, and our guest helping us to look at the presentation of the budget by President Tinubu yesterday. Thank you very much, sir. We hope we'll link up with you again shortly.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right.